Hello, everyone, and welcome again. We always take a minute when everyone joins to make sure that we're not starting the show without everyone. But for those that are new here, every single Sunday, 7 o'clock, we go live and we talk about all your real estate questions. Usually, there's a topic of the week, first Sunday of every month. We talk about the market and what is going on in all of our respective counties, typically only Lewis, Thurston, Grace Harbor counties. Mostly Lewis and Thurston, because that's where I do most of my business. We have some in Grace Harbor too. But if you have questions about anything, your specific town, anything that's not in the normal script, ask. Put your questions down below, put your questions in everything, and we will absolutely take the time to address it. The whole point of going live is to engage with everyone and to give people the opportunity to ask questions and do things. I'm going to do a quick sound check to make sure we're still working because we have had in the past where it didn't work. Let's just double check here. Hop on to our YouTube, make sure that we are in fact live, make sure that we are working. And give everyone an opportunity to join in. Let me just make sure our sound is working. Okay. Sound is working. We are live on YouTube, Twitch. It says Instagram. Did it not go live on Facebook? It's supposed to be live on Facebook too. We didn't go live on Facebook. How do we fix that? Looks like Facebook Live is only vertical, maybe? I'm so confused why it's not letting us. Try steering in both landscape and portrait orientation. No, thank you. Can I fix it? Let's see if it worked. Are we live on Facebook? But like I said, if you guys have questions about the market or anything related, let me know. Now is the time. And we are officially live. Wonderful, wonderful. Always little quirky things we gotta keep tabs on. Okay. So, hello everyone and welcome, especially those from Facebook that just were able to join us. Let's talk about the market. Last month was really, really good for my family. We sold a lot of homes. We had, I think, 6 total transactions closed, which is incredible. I'm so lucky. So we had kind of a dead winter. All of our listings were just quiet. And then all of a sudden last month, everything did things, which was super, super cool. We're kind of seeing that again. We're kind of in a dead spot right now where I had a bunch of listings go live. Lots of people are asking questions. Lots of people are looking. Not a lot of showings. So it seems like our real estate's kind of going in waves. In my opinion, if stuff isn't happening right away, don't panic. We're seeing people lower prices and then nothing's happening, right? We're seeing people make changes, nothing's happening. It does seem like a big element of this is just time more than it is dropping the price until it sells like it kind of used to be. So it's a weird time to be in the market. So we're going to hop in here and we're going to take a look at exactly what the market is doing. Let's see here. This one. Very good. So here is what the market is doing. We're looking at all price ranges. We're looking at only residential. We're not looking at condos, vacant land, farm and ranch, manufactured Poll's kind of funny. It pulls usually just homes and parks. So residential still will include more than no manufactured homes. Looking at all bedrooms, and to be honest with you, if you really wanted a good metric of what's going on, we'd probably do this, right? We'd look at the stuff with an acre or less. When we throw in the stuff with 3 acres and more, I think it tends to mess with the data. So for the sake of this, let's look at 1 acre and less. If you have acreage, awesome. It's just not great for overall trends, at least in my opinion. So this is going to be looking at just regular old houses without some crazy amounts of land, because sometimes you'll have places that have, a ton of space or a ton of acres, and that'll mess up all of these numbers. So if we factor in for all of those things, which I think is the most fair way to do it, when we start looking at our numbers here, I like to look at the median sales price countywide. Thurston County is $529,000. That is a 0% change year over year. Lewis County is $380,000. That is a 3.6% increase year over year. Grays Harbor is $339,000, which is a 6.7% decrease year over year. So Thurston County prices stagnant. Lewis County up a little bit. Grays Harbor down almost 7%. How are we doing on listings? This is the crazy part, okay? Thurston County has 443 new listings. That is a 30% increase year over year. Lewis County, 125. That's a 37% increase year over year. And Grays Harbor is 181. That's a 24% increase year over year. But new listings isn't the whole story. How many homes are actually for sale? We're looking at 576 in Thurston County, 215 in Lewis, and 497 in Grays Harbor. That is a 34, 19, and 22% increase, respectively. Now, that is big news. If you are selling your home, you have 34% in Thurston County more competition than you had this time last year. That means you've got to be a little bit more competitive. Buyers have more choices, which is awesome for buyers because, again, buyers have more choices than they've had in a really long time. What is that? Getting weird notifications and buttons on the screen. That's okay, though. Okay, so overall, more options for buyers. Prices are not really crashing, right? I mean, Grays Harbor's down a good chunk, but everywhere else is not. Days on market, how's that looking? It's looking crazy. In Thurston County, a 166% increase. Okay, it's not that bad. It's 16 days on market, okay? Now, what I'm seeing often is that some homes are selling quick, but for the most part, stuff that's priced fairly takes a long time, no matter the county. Stuff that is priced low sells quick, and there are sellers that are motivated to do a low price. So right now, in my opinion, if you want to meet these day amounts, you're typically going to need to price the home low, not fairly. We are typically seeing homes selling within 30 days of a price reduction or price change, which is pretty typical. But right now, Thurston County, we're looking at 16 days on market. Lewis County, we're looking at 29 days on market. And Grays Harbor, we're looking at 38 days on market. Again, I think that if you're not pricing low, you're going to see more days than that. I have listings that are more days than that, and I think they're fair. And then they get an offer eventually, right? But I'd be very careful with these numbers right now. Again, in my opinion, these are probably low. If you want to price high, you're going to look at more days, and that's okay. You'll still sell. If you want to be at this day count, you want to probably be priced pretty darn low, okay? When we look at our month supply, I like month supply closed. If we look at our month supply closed, this is if we were to stop listing homes today, how long would it take us to sell out of homes in the market? If we're looking at 4-month supply or higher, some places say 4-month supply, some places say 6-month supply. Somewhere between 4 and 6 months supply or higher, you're looking at a buyer's market. If it is 4 or lower, it is a seller's market. Okay, 4 to 6 is kind of a more balanced market. So in Thurston County, we have a 2.4 month supply. It is absolutely still a seller's market. Even though it's not as crazy of a seller's market, it is still a seller's market. Lewis County is at 4.1 month supply, so it's a more even market. Grays Harbor, 6.5 month supply. That is a 20% increase. They are absolutely a buyer's market. How are sellers doing compared to their original list price is what I like to see. How are sellers doing compared to their original list price? Thurston County, they're getting their list price pretty often. Lewis County, getting around 98% of list price. Grays Harbor, they're looking around 96% of their original list price. Median price per square foot. Thurston County is 290, Lewis County is 272, Grays Harbor is 227. That is a slight decrease in Thurston, a pretty big upgrade in Lewis, and a decent downgrade in Grays Harbor. Grays Harbor is not doing great. If you put your home on the market, how many showings do you need to get it sold? In Thurston County, we're looking at 7. That's a 22% decrease. So again, fewer showings to get it sold. Lewis County, we're looking at 5 showings to get it sold. That's a 54% decrease year over year. And Grays Harbor is around 7 showings. So for right now, for example, I have a listing in Yelm, and that one has, I think, 2 showings so far. On average, we get 2 or 3 more, we should have an offer, right? Just most commonly. How many showings we're looking at per listing? Right now, 2.2 in Grays Harbor, 2.4 in Lewis, and 4.4 in Thurston. So again, you don't need to get out of your house that much. Pictures in 3D do a lot of really good work for you. So if you do have a listing, you're not going to need to get out 82 times like you needed to during COVID when stuff was crazy. You're going to need to get out an average, again, of give or take 5 times, 7 times, depending on where you're at. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about the market? I think the biggest thing is that for a minute there, Lewis County was not looking good. And the chart does go kind of funny, right? We're very seasonal out here. When we get into the wintertime, it does go down pretty dramatically. And we do not have a tremendous amount of inventory like we would see if we were looking at, say, all of Washington or like a big city like Seattle. So we are going to see a lot more volatility in these charts bouncing up and down. We have good months and bad months, but we definitely were hit with seasonality this year. Like, I mean, you can see December, we fell off until March, which is right when I started picking up. So what do you guys think? Questions, comments, concerns about the market? Going once, going twice. All right, very good. Mortgage rates. Right now, we're sitting right around 6.4, 6.45 for the average 30-year loan. That's really high. We were seeing clients get 6s for a while there, especially in this part where we were at, but not anymore. Now we're seeing 6.45, so stuff is pretty darn high. The big thing to remember here is that for every 1% increase in the rate, we're looking at around 10% increase in payment. That doesn't quite pencil out 1-to-1. You need to do some calculations if you want to be really precise. But like I said, if we went from having a 3% rate to a 6.5% rate, it's not quite a 35% increase in your payment, which is crazy. So these rates are really hammering our buyers. Does that mean you should wait? Not necessarily. You can always refinance and get a lower rate later, right? When the rates go down, prices will almost guaranteed go up. We'll probably have a lot more competition in the market. So it's oftentimes better to buy when the prices are lower and the rates are higher than it is to buy when the prices are very high and the rates are very low, because you can't refinance the price, but you can refinance the rate, right? And last, and maybe most importantly, depending on what you're into, AirDNA is a lot of fun. This is our ability to kind of see what is going on in the Airbnb rental market. It's kind of tough because we don't have a lot of really solid Airbnb markets. I do very much like not Yakima. I don't want Yakima. I want Packwood. Can we get Packwood in here? Packwood. There we go. I do very much like the Packwood market. So overall, if you have an Airbnb in Packwood, and again, if you have questions about specifics, let me know. We can step back and we can look at exactly what your market is doing. And if you let me know now in the live, we can look at it live. If you are catching this later, let me know and I'll get it for you custom. But right now, the Airbnbs out in the Packwood area, which is my canary in the coal mine, my best way to see what is going on in the neighborhood. Oh my goodness, this keeps picking up on me. Annual revenue, gross revenue for an Airbnb in Packwood brings in around $44,000. There are around 346 total active listings. The occupancy rate is around 51%, and the average day rate is $274.79. So we're seeing a slight decrease in annual revenue because the occupancy rate is down 2.2%. Prices are up slightly, and the amount of competition is actually up quite a bit. It's up 7.5% compared to last year. Still a decent place to be as long as you can make that 44 or 45,000 bucks, make you profitable. The biggest thing with the Airbnb market right now is a lot of the changes to Airbnb and all of those other partner programs really cutting into the profitability. So they're not quite as good as they used to be, and it's a little bit more unstable than it used to be. So I'd love to say I've seen a lot of people tapping out and getting out of it, which I feel like I have. But the fact that there's 346 when there used to be quite a bit less is kind of crazy. The big thing I want to see, I think, is if we get rid of the shared rooms and the private rooms. If we get rid of the shared rooms and the private rooms, yeah, that doesn't make a big difference, does it? Property types, entire place, view all. Yeah, didn't make a huge change. So that's interesting. We don't have a lot of rooms for sale or rooms for Airbnb on here. So overall, the Airbnb market is again down slightly in occupancy, even though there's a huge uptick in competition. Annual revenue is down slightly. So if you've got an Airbnb house in the Packwood area, you're looking to bring in right around $45,000. So let's see here. How do I close this? There we go. So what do you guys think? What are your questions about the market? What is going on in your corner of the world? I'd love to hear your thoughts. For now, again, though, it's kind of tough because when people are engaging, when people are commenting and doing things, we can use up a lot of time really easy. It's really easy to go down a rabbit hole and end up on a super, super long live. But in this case, when things are pretty quiet, it's a lot harder for me to find things to ramble on about when we're looking at the market. But again, what I'm seeing most right now is people buying in waves. We're seeing a lot of people inquiring on properties, but not really pulling triggers because properties seem to be sitting for a while. I know that the sale, like actual sold times showing right now are pretty quick. They feel short to me because a lot of the listings I've been working on, a lot of listings I've been seeing, have been sitting for longer than that. I will say if listings are on the market for 2 to 4 weeks without a lot of action, we do start looking at price reductions. But that's very data driven and it still takes 2 to 4 weeks. So in the markets where they're saying it's selling in 2 weeks or less, I take that with a grain of salt. I think what is actually happening is a lot of listings are expiring and that is messing with the numbers. So anyways, guys, unless someone has questions, comments, concerns, I think we'll call it here. And if anyone needs anything, you know what to do. Call Castro. I'll talk to you guys soon.